Hello and welcome to Small Town Big Business. We're a podcast about how small businesses can find success in rural Southern Illinois. I'm Jennifer Olson, and I am the Director of Business Development here in the city of Marion.
And I'm Russell Williams. I'm your co-host. I'm Director of EThOs. We're a small business incubator. We do co-working spaces. We do training and development here in downtown Marion, Illinois. Welcome to the Citadel building here on Tower Square Plaza. I want to thank you, but we also want to thank our sponsors.
Oh, absolutely. We wouldn't be here without Arcadia Wealth Group, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Swinford Media Group, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, and two new sponsors. We have Banterra Bank and Southern Illinois Now. So welcome to all of our sponsors.
And you can join the small town big business community by subscribing to your favorite podcast platform. Look up Small Town Big Business either on Spotify or Apple, or you can join us and watch us on YouTube also. Again, look at Small Town Big Business. Subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes.
And with that, we have a great guest today. So I want to introduce you to Dr. Brooke Jacobs, and her company is called Delve.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate the invite to be here, and I'm really excited to jump in to talk about my business today and how we're serving Southern Illinois and really the Midwest altogether.
Yeah, and so I definitely want you to tell us about kind of your credentials, your education history, and what your business does. But I'll start by saying that you were referred to reach out to me, and one of the things that you said to me is that you're a Southern Illinois girl.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, your business is getting more traction in Kentucky than in Southern Illinois, and we just can't have that.
Yes.
We want you to find success here.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So, yes, I'm a small town Southern Illinois girl, so born and raised in Grand Chain, Illinois, and I think you guys have actually had another Grand Chainian on your podcast before when I was looking back at some of the older episodes.
So we have both.
Yes.
Both people from Grand Chain.
Yes, both people. I joke that the population count includes several cattle and probably a couple dogs too. I think we got our 250 is a little inflated there maybe, but Kurt Jones with 40 Below was on. Yeah. So glad that we can have a representation of Grand Chain. But so I grew up there, currently live there. And so it is home. Southern Illinois is home for me. I went away to school at McKendree University, not too far.
McKendree grad.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Break out the purple. Go Bearcats.
Yes, go Bearcats. That's wonderful. So yes, I did my undergrad at McKendree University and then came back home after that. And then I went on to get my master's in clinical psychology and my doctorate in clinical psychology, and that is where Kentucky came in. So I got my master's and doctorate in Kentucky, and just from that, professional connections and mentorship and things that came with school, job opportunities came in Kentucky. And so my entire goal from childhood, my earliest memories were that I was going to live and work in Southern Illinois, and that this was going to be my forever home. And so while I was still living in Grand Chain, I was driving across the river every day to work in the Paducah area in western Kentucky. And so slowly, somehow, the 2-year plan turned into a 7-year idea there, where I was still working primarily and only in western Kentucky. And so I said, I've got to do something different where I'm doing what I dreamed about. And so that was coming back to Southern Illinois, and that meant starting my own business. Yeah. So I started Delve LLC. We're an organizational health consulting company. And so we help businesses meet their goals in an efficient and effective way that focuses on physical health, mental health, financial health. We know that there is not productivity without well-being, and so we help businesses do that, and we have a range of services that help support them.
So where does that vision come from? Because I understand you getting your degree. I wasn't taught necessarily consulting and coaching, which I do now, from the degree I got. So that came later. So was that something that prior to getting education, you're like, I think this is what I want to do? Or was it maybe through interacting with
Yes, so my journey was interesting. When I was in high school, I decided I want to be a mental health professional. I know this is what I want to do. But interestingly, I knew that I didn't want to do therapy all day, every day.
Okay.
I didn't want to be somebody who was meeting with clients day in and day out. I wanted just some different opportunities throughout my day to engage with others, but I had no idea what that looked like. And so I still continued on the journey of getting my master's degree and my doctorate degree in clinical psychology because it fit well with the knowledge that I wanted to obtain. And so I continued on that route, and through my residency program after my doctorate, there's a year of practice where you have to continue to get didactic, so education throughout your specialties. And I encountered a wonderful mentor during that time. It was actually in response to the mass shooting incident that happened in Western Kentucky that a clinical psychologist was brought down for consulting services. And at that time, I was introduced to system psychology and more industrial organizational psychology.
Okay.
And so a year of mentorship with him was really what led me to understanding how you can use the principles of clinical psychology to apply them not just to the individual, but to a system as a whole, a community as a whole, an organization as a whole, and really start to look at the inner workings of that.
Okay.
And so that is where my training on coaching and consulting with larger entities, not just an individual, came about, which was a wonderful experience for me. I'm very grateful for that.
So you talk a little bit about a trauma situation
Yes.
that happened in Marshall County, and I mean, that is certainly a demand and a need. But how can people, companies, organizations be proactive and work with you to get ahead of hopefully putting things in place so we can avoid trauma?
Absolutely. And so one of the things that we really try to invest in companies is this idea of flexibility. And so having a roadmap of where you want to go and what mile markers you want to achieve, we really have to be focused on that journey and not just the end goal. And when we focus on who we want to be as individuals and as an agency along that journey, that's where we can encompass flexibility in that model. And so that is really a proactive way to understand that there's so many things out of our control. We didn't have control that there was a pandemic coming, right? And so how can we be flexible in that? We have really hard things happen. Maybe we get dissatisfied customers, or we have a major mental health crisis with one of our employees, or God forbid, a mass violence incident. And we have to know that those things are out of our control and who we are going to be in those hard times. And so that's where company culture comes in. So identifying who you are. Some companies say, I want to be family oriented. We are like a family here. Other companies say, oh gosh, that scares me to death. I don't want to be that close with all of my coworkers. And so our company culture is a little bit more professional based. And there's a range of cultures that are appropriate, but we have these guidelines. But flexibility in order to be proactive, to understand how trauma or outside incidences are going to affect you is the main goal there.
So where does your business come from? Is it HR directors that know that this is very important for their corporation or company and they're reaching out, they're looking for you, they're reaching out for your services? Are you doing marketing and pushing yourself, your services out there?
Yeah.
How does that work?
And so we had a lot of connections there in Western Kentucky where people were reaching out to us. That's actually how my business got started. I was working as the staff psychologist and director of all client services at a residential domestic violence shelter there in Western Kentucky, and there were entities coming to us as a professional and expert in the field of trauma, saying, is there anybody that could come and coach some of our staff on boundaries, or coach some of our staff on on trauma-informed care, all of these things that were really needed for their team to do great work. And so people were reaching out, and again, I had a wonderful mentor, supervisor, executive director where I worked, and the things that didn't really fit with that agency, I started to moonlight on the side with her support, and so they were coming to say, help us do these things. As I took my business full-time, we started to market a little bit just through Google Ads and things like that. But primarily businesses are saying, we need help in fixing some issue. So maybe it's just that the feeling isn't right there at your agency, or one department is always struggling, or there's communication barriers, or they don't feel prepared for what's coming next, or they don't know how to get to their achievements, that their mile markers that they're wanting to meet. And so then they'll reach out at that point and say, we need help on just organizing. And so then I take them through kind of that roadmap explanation. And then the services that can come with that could look like strategic planning, executive coaching, professional development, those types of things. And then other places reach out, some for those like big conference style presentations as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I can tell you have presentations, right? You've got some experience being in front of people and explaining what you do and how you can help.
Thank you. Yep.
Very, very polished. Very good.
Well,
Very good.
and that is when we chatted about how to help grow Delve in Southern Illinois. I said, I feel like if they could just hear you, like, they would get it. And so we talked about, maybe doing some sampling of her work through here, EThOs.
Yes.
And then certainly we have for-profit businesses like Higher Level Staffing that offer seminars that maybe she could plug into, and others. So when I think about like what would keep somebody from picking up the phone call or taking a consult with you, there might be a perception that what you're doing is for really big companies.
Yes.
Or it's going to be so expensive it's not practical for the little guy.
Yep.
So can you tell us, like, who are your, not by name,
Yes,
but like
of
what
course.
kind of clients you work with and the sizes of the business?
Yeah, I do work with some larger businesses that have 50, 60 employees, but the majority of the businesses I work with are 10, 15, 20 individuals there working. And so the importance of recognizing that an organization is its own entity and its health matters. I can work with an entrepreneur who is one person. Mm-hmm. So currently Delve only has one employee, and it is me. Mm-hmm. Well, I contract with some other service providers when I have larger contracts that come on and help support that work. But I have to practice that. So my work gets very meta as I go on. So I have to apply what I'm teaching to these other businesses to I have to have this roadmap. I have to worry about my own mental health. Mm-hmm. It's difficult. I came from a place that had 40 employees. I had coworkers to bounce ideas off of, to keep me in check, to do all of these things. And then to go to being an entrepreneur, I joke that my husband and the help that I have with my website and those marketing services, those are my two coworkers.
Yeah.
So I said, get ready to hear the gossip that's happening in the Delve office today. It's just me. And so it is important to have health of that organization, even if it's one person, because again, the organization is its own system. Mm-hmm. Same things with communities and government systems and nonprofits. Your mission as its own system, and so it is important to recognize that the investment that you're putting into the health is important to your bottom line or the mission that you're serving, whatever your goal is in your work. Yeah. It is more likely that internal factors are going to be the downfall of or the barrier to an organization meeting its goals than external factors are. Mm-hmm. So it is the unhealthy interactions, the policies and procedures getting in the way. We've all come up against systematic barriers that are so frustrating. And if those are in your own business or in a small business, they can just defeat morale that crumbles the business. So I really like to tell businesses that their business is worth investing in that health, because it's so important. And if we ignore that, you don't likely just stumble into good health, right? It is the same thing with our physical and mental health. We don't just stumble into it. It's an activity that you invest in.
Yeah. So do you spend most of your time, especially at the beginning with a company or corporation, just with the leaders?
Yes.
That's some mindset changes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And usually they already know. And so a lot of the work that I do isn't pitching the importance of healthy culture and healthy organizations. It's talking about the implementation. So the people that I meet with never sit down and say, I can't wait for my business to crumble, right? I can't wait for this to just fizzle out already. They're saying, I'm really trying to do this, and this just isn't working. These people aren't doing what I want them to do. Yes, and so we all have it. There's a breakdown between goals and information and implementation, and so that's where clinical psychology comes in. Right. We understand how the minds work, how systems work together, that we can find ways to actually implement what you're doing. So I'm not coming in and saying this is what you should implement. Businesses have that idea that they're coming to me with, but there is a breakdown in how that's getting done. And again, we see it in our personal lives. I know that if I go to bed earlier every night, I'm going to be a little bit happier in the morning, but me laying in bed at 9:30 and then scrolling on my phone for 45 minutes, that was a breakdown in goal and implementation, right? And so setting up areas for success in that to succeed is where we come in.
Culture change.
Absolutely.
Right. And
opportunities for growth.
Right. I mean, we all get the idea, but it really gets down to maybe one or two people in your company that maybe has some really personal struggles that are affecting their work, which is making the culture change.
Yes.
Or setting the culture in a way that really is frustrating towards production.
Yes.
And I understand that.
Yes.
I get that.
And I come to leaders a lot in the organizations, directors, and CEOs, and then directors on a leadership team, and really talk to them about what leading means. It means to go first, right? And so there's often times that we get this kind of culture of do what I say, not as I do, especially around burnout and overworking and making that your whole life, because I'm an entrepreneur now. I know that this is not my everything, but it's a huge part of who I am and what I'm working towards. And so I'm going to invest a lot of my time and energy. And so if I get employees that see that and think that that's the culture, I'm going to get burnout. I'm going to get frustration. I'm going to get secondary trauma symptoms in my employees if that's what happens. And so having a culture that allows leaders to truly lead by example, by having a balance in their lives and authentic leadership is really important.
So it sounds like you had some wisdom of what you wanted to do pretty early, and you really stuck with it. But then the part where you transition into an entrepreneur, that's not everybody's cup of tea. And so what are your favorite parts or favorite duties, and what are the things that, you just like, oh, God, if I have to do accounting, I'm going to, what is your favorites and least favorites?
And so it's kind of ironic because I can vividly remember at McKendree sitting down and saying, I'm never going to be a business owner. Never, ever, ever. And looking back on that, now I realize what I was truly saying was that I never wanted to open up a counseling center or a therapy center because I knew that wasn't my full passion. I enjoy therapy. I love that aspect, and I still provide some therapy through employee wellness programs. But that wasn't the business I saw myself running. And so when I was saying that so adamantly to myself, it was that I didn't want to run that business. And so I can remember when that idea even kind of creeped into my head when I was in the doctoral program, because I was thinking about what I wanted to do, and I was having this experience with systems work, and that individual who was my mentor at that time was from Boston.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm not moving to Boston. I'm from Grand Chain. I'm staying here on the farm. I'm doing this work. How can I do what I want to do and be home? And so that's when the idea said, well, you have to do it. You are going to be the one. So are you able to? Can you do that? And I still didn't even embrace the idea that I was a business owner, a woman-owned business, an entrepreneur. Those titles never came into my head. I said clinical psychologist. That was my even title I put on some of my startup paperwork. And I remember somebody saying, like, oh, what are you going to refer to yourself as? Owner, CEO? And I was like, oh. And I just kind of like did a little head tilt of, okay, like I'm going to own an entire business. Okay. And so as I started going through that journey, that was one of my favorite journeys, was finding this new identity in my professional career. And so that was just kind of eye-opening to start with, and then embracing that part of me. My favorite parts about my job is what I wanted it to be. It's getting up and doing something different. I may come to a podcast on a Thursday morning. I might be going and doing a conference, which I'll be doing in a couple weeks, or going and sitting down with a small business owner, diving into their work. The joys of that I see differently than what kind of was my track to open maybe a therapy center, was that there's so many people in our area who want to do good work and want to do it well. I get to impart that information onto them, and then they get to go out and impart that on other people, on community members. And so through that, I'm reaching so many more lives in our area than I would have if I had a caseload of 40 people that I saw every week. And so yes, that's my favorite part. The most difficult part for me is probably some of the networking pieces. And connecting and marketing. And so I joked my sisters in marketing, I said, I'm just going to have to pull you on to go get my name out there and tell people who I am and what I do, and then I'll come in and do the work. Because I am kind of detail-oriented. I like to get into numbers. So one of the things that we do is data-informed decision-making, helping people use the data in their work to actually make decisions. And so I really like to get into numbers crunching and show people the graphs and the what is actually happening on paper. So I really enjoy that part. But I'm learning to get more comfortable with the networking.
Do you see your marketplace as being regional? Because I can think that if by Zoom you could take this way beyond. So do you do both? Or?
I do,
okay.
Yes. And so we primarily serve the Midwest region. I'm licensed in Illinois and Kentucky to do any licensed worthy mental health work. And so, but it was interesting when I first got started. I was getting pulled to Louisville and Frankfurt and Springfield and Chicago. Yeah. And I kept saying, like, thank you, I love that, I want to go and do that work. And
it's a lot of travel.
It is, and I wanted to invest in my community. So our mission, we are focused on community wellness. I want those places to be healthy too, but I want to invest in my neighbor's workplace. I want to invest in my children's school. I want to invest in the people that I know who have a heart for our community, because when we have healthy workplaces, we have a healthy community.
That's awesome. So do you prefer the one-on-one face-to-face, or do most people reach out and say, I just need to do online?
I prefer in person, absolutely, because as I was talking about earlier, kind of being prepared for things, every service that I provide is individualized. I've been to trainings on trauma-informed care that talk about bubble baths and self-care and these really blanketed ways. And I want to sit down with a business and know them, know the ins and outs of their business. There's been times that I've gone to a business that I was working with over Zoom, And I get there and I realize their parking is not great, and they're having little spats over parking spots constantly. Everybody has had those feelings of pulling up to their parking spot and
every single day.
There. And so I wouldn't have known that without going there. And so I really, I don't think I've had a business yet that I haven't made an effort to go to and see in person, even if we do a lot of the work over Zoom.
And schools too?
Correct.
Contracts with schools?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Our teachers' wellness, and it's integral to again, leading by examples. The children in our school, having models for them that are, again, authentic leadership, showing some vulnerability while still being efficient in their job. It's a hard balance, and that's one of the things that I really like to inform people about when they're talking about contracting with us is they don't have to be mental health professionals. I'm not going to a CEO of a company or a teacher and saying, you now have to be your employee's therapist. It doesn't have to be your whole thing. It has to be something you pay attention to, and you can contract with somebody to do that, just like you contract with somebody for maybe marketing or for accounting or HR. Those things are integral to your functioning, but you don't have to be the one to implement it all, and you don't have to go out and know all the answers. There's people here like us who can help with that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, when I'm thinking about like, how would someone really identify that they need you? And you said that often leadership knows whether they're willing to admit it or not, or understand how to overcome it. But I want to go back. You said like one sign that might be a trigger or a red flag or warning that would direct someone to you would be just not reaching your goals. I would think like employee turnover would be a big one. What are some other things if a company's like, how would I even know if I have an issue and might need you?
Well, one thing that we like to pitch is that you don't have to wait until there's an issue.
Okay.
Right? And so this is one of those proactive pieces of coming in and making sure that we're equipped for any of those external things. So my pitch is, if you are a business, if you are a system, if you have something that is greater than just yourself, that has a mission or a goal, whether it's financial or community goals, then you could benefit from taking some time to look at the function. And so it may mean less time committed to it. Being proactive, you can get by with just saying, okay, we're investing in this, but the people who are already kind of seeing some issues in their work may just be really insightful too, because there's going to be issues in any place of business or a place of work that is causing some stress. But if you are seeing that you can't keep a department staffed, that you have really siloed departments, and it's hard for them to communicate or find where they're communicating or find whose role is what in an agency, those are really big signs of some needing to parse out your policies and procedures and your departments. And if you're grant funded, that's always really difficult. You get different grants saying they require different things, and you end up with 7 different names for one department, and you get titles that are a page long when you're describing someone's job. But the importance of job descriptions is it's key to people knowing what is expected of them, and then how it's expected them to show up is your culture, of course. So those are some other key things. If you are noticing a lot of gossiping, absenteeism is one big piece to look for, but the other one that's worse on a bottom line is presenteeism. And so showing up and not doing the work, bosses who rely on that proximity rule that if you're close to me, you must be doing the work is not a good measure of whether somebody's being productive in their work. So we like to sit down with leaderships and talk about how are you measuring their productivity? How are you measuring whether or not they're getting their job done? Because to say this department is struggling, so I think we need to get another position there is not always the best, right? So if you put another person in a boat that doesn't have any oars, they're not gonna do much, right? And so having the time and somebody with the ability to go in and look at the data to say, do they have what they need? Maybe they need some professional development. We see a lot of times in small businesses, you get promoted from within the agency, which is a wonderful thing. It happened with me. And so to go from maybe a call center to support person to a director, there's very few times that I've seen where you have training along the way to say, how do you do an evaluation with somebody who used to be your peer 6 months ago and now they're your subordinate? How do you have boundaries with these people that you used to text in the evenings and go out with in the evenings? How do you navigate that in a professional world? So we have professional development work with that as well.
Yeah. And I imagine you have to have a lot of resources because you can't provide all the professional development yourself. There's
Correct.
you've had limits, we all have limits.
Yes.
So how do you network for those other resources? Are they mainly here in this region? Are you doing it online? How does that work?
It depends on the business specifically, but I, of course, always try to go with as locally as I can. So our Small Business Development Center, Leaderships and Development places are really important to making sure we have a lot of resources of people who are here to give good education on really specific things that businesses need. And so, it gets kind of interesting that I was one who utilized some of those services. And so I was having meetings with people to say, I'm here for 2 reasons. I want to pitch you my services because I want to help you as a small business development center train some of your customers on these things. And can you help me with my marketing plan? Can you help me itemize my services in a way that's digestible for my consumers? And so, yes, partnering in those ways is so important, and just having more connections to be able to do some warm handoffs to say, I know Jennifer over here, she's going to help take care of you, and if she can't help you with this thing, she's going to be able to help you find somebody who can. And so that's been really, really important.
I think you hit on something that is important for entrepreneurs at any stage, and that's a little bit of humility, like just the willingness to admit that you don't know everything.
Absolutely.
And to just be open to some kind of coaching. And how many times it does turn into a two-way street, where you know something I don't know and I know something, and it just creates such a great foundation for that. That's where, like, I always say, build a network, not a directory, because it's the people, not the knowledge.
Yes.
But to me, that's networking. Like, I don't want to go to a big event with the goal of just handing out all my business cards.
Of course.
I want to make intimate connections where I have a better understanding at the end of the day, like who knows what and who I can go to in the time of need. So I think that's just a nugget. And I appreciate that. I don't want to cut us off early, and I certainly want to make sure that you get in everything you want to tell us about. So what kind of questions or what kind of information have we missed out on?
I could talk on these topics for days. And so, a little bit of the passion behind my work around this community and around helping individuals. I see there are so many people with good hearts in this community who are wanting to do better to help parents succeed, help families succeed. And so finding ways that we can all support each other in that is something that we're passionate about at Delve. And so making sure that, like you said earlier, about what might scare businesses away from coming and contacting us for services, to make sure that they understand that our goal is to help our area thrive. And so if you're here in this area, that that you can reach out and feel that we understand a little bit about what it feels like to live in Southern Illinois. One of my hardest professional interactions was working with a hospital that was based in a very large city that kept giving me, as a service provider, this plan of how to work, and it included referrals to neurologists and specialties, and they just kept saying, just refer these people. And I said, I don't think you understand what that would mean for the people I'm working with is 2 hours, 2.5 hour drive one way. And so I think it's really nice to have somebody who understands the area and the landscape of what businesses are, the environment that they're working in here too.
You mentioned the farm in Grand Chain a couple times. Is that part of your own health and wellness?
Absolutely, yes. Being outdoors, being just connected. Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's why it is always home. It's just a place to go outside when you can look and there's nothing in your peripheral but nature. That's
awesome.
Absolutely my
You might have
my
a
mental
retreat
health.
there someday.
Yes. And so
cool.
I have a sibling who's very much into gardening and nature, and so I've told him, I said, okay, you get a really big garden going. I'm going to have some corporate retreats coming in and gardening beside you. That's here.
Awesome.
And yes.
That's so cool.
Yes.
Well, we love that you would bring people here for sure. I mean, we're all understand the impact of, sort of that, what I would call business tourism on introducing people to our area, because it is unfortunately often too hidden. People are always surprised. So applaud that. And we definitely are here to help you grow your network and have success. For you to sustain your business and be successful, of course, but also I think it's important that young people in our area see that you can come from Grand Chain and you can get a doctorate and you can start a business. I mean, we can't have our role models all leave the area.
Absolutely.
And so we want to be a part of that growth, but I would be curious, do you have anybody who is a role model for you or inspires you or keeps you going?
Yes. So Again, my journey was atypical, I think, for a mental health professional. And I can think of 5 right off the top of my head that are actually, I was getting ready for a business event and was thinking about the people I was going to invite. And these people were the top of my list for guiding me professionally. And they all still have ties to me in some way. But I still do have a coach that walks me through the goals that I have, because it's hard to implement that on yourself. It's hard to have that own conversation in my head. I need external viewpoints. And so the people outside of professors and teachers who have really just looked at me, listened to what I've said, and then said, I think this opportunity fits with you, was key to where I am right now, and my ability to start my own business. And so I want to do that for other people. I'm really passionate about educating kids in high school and in their college careers about what they can do with degrees in mental health, how to navigate it. It is daunting out there. You got social workers and counselors and therapists, peer support specialists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and it's hard for a professional to know the differences and the nuances between those. And I encountered that. The only reason that I got my master's in clinical psychology was I called the receptionist at one of the universities, and I said, I don't know whether to apply for clinical or counseling psychology. I still don't know the difference. And she, instead of explaining these two things to me that were going to be way over my head at that point, she said, what do you want to do? And I told her, and she said,
great.
you would need to apply to clinical psychology.
Excellent.
And there were so many people in my life who asked me those types of questions. Who are you? What do you want to do? Rather than just spitting information at me and then me feeling like I'm stuck with that decision. So that's, again, one of the reasons I have those conversations with agencies to say, where are you wanting to go? And then I can help you get there. So that was absolutely taught to me, and I try to model that.
I love that, because really their response to what your need was is the why. This is the why you go down this
Yes.
path. So, not to steal Russ's thunder, but what's your why ultimately?
Oh, I have whys on multiple levels. So, I get up in the morning and do what I love. That's why. Why I move forward every day is because I enjoy what I do. I enjoy meeting with people. I enjoy learning about where they want to be and helping them get there. And so that's what I wanted to do professionally. That's what I was wanting to do, and I'm here now. Why personally is that I have a little one who right now who's learning that mom and dad exist when we're not with her. And so she's starting to say, what do you do when you go to work? Why do you have to go to work? The coolest thing about being able to go do what I love is that I can honestly look her in the eye and say, because I want to. I don't have to go to work today. I want to go to work today. I want to go help these people. I love you, and I want to see you when I get home, and I want to go to work. I'm happy about it. I don't have to drag myself there. I'm walking out the door with a smile on my face, and to model that for her, that she can have that, is another why, and that I authentically get to feel that happiness for myself too. And I get to do that and support our family is a really great thing. And then on the community level, again, community health.
Yeah.
I want my neighbors to be healthy, be happy. I want them to understand that their workplace culture matters, that they matter, that their health matters, that the stress that they're enduring at work doesn't have to be something that they come home to, that they don't have to tell their kids every day, I have to go to work today, and I don't want to. And so that's my why on at least 3 different levels.
So how does someone find you and your services?
We are at delvhealthconsulting.com, and they can look up some of our different services there. They can call, they can email. All of our contact information is there. We're on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's really been a great day to talk about small businesses in our area and how Delve can help support them.
Yeah. Dr. Brooke Jacobs.
Correct.
With an S on the end,
Yes.
Jacobs. Awesome.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
So we want to thank Dr. Brooke Jacobs of Delve Health Consulting for joining us today. We want to thank you for joining us today too, especially our sponsors for sponsoring Small Town Big Business. Do you want to tell us?
Oh, absolutely. So in addition to Dr. Brooke Jacobs, we want to thank Arcadia Wealth Group, Black Diamond Harley Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Swinford Media Group, Watermark Auto Group Foundation, and our new sponsors, Banterra Bank and Southern Illinois Now. So thank you to sponsors and thank you to our guest. And as always, a huge shout out to our producer, Luke O'Neill with Union Street Arts. He keeps us looking and sounding great.
Yep. You want to know more about EThOs, the small business incubator, co-working spaces, training and development in Marion? You can contact me. I'm Russell at watermarkethos.org. Look for us at our new website, ethosmarion.org. And Jennifer, how they found you?
Yeah, so I'm Jennifer Olson, Director of Business Development for the City of Marion, and here we want to see you be successful. And if you want to inquire if there's any resources or connections we can be a part of to help that happen, please reach out to me. I'm at the new City Hall, or all my contact information is on LinkedIn. So thank you so much.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast either on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Williams.
And I'm Jennifer Olson.